we're going to go back to Skyward though. If you would tell me, compare and contrast the Skyward student information system versus Teams.
Skyward was so much more user-friendly from the teacher perspective. It was real easy to get anything done that you need to get done as far as averaging grades or for taking attendance. Literally, the kid's picture popped up, and so you just had to click on the kid by recognition, even if they weren't. You didn't know their names. You could create your seating chart on there, so if you have a substitute, and they could look at it and see rows or pods or however you had it, and just click on kid pictures. And it updated every year as soon as they took their pictures. So you weren't looking at their 8th grade picture when they're a senior still like we do right now with Teams.
You know, that old DOS system, Teams reminds me of that. And I don't know why do you think a district as large as Goose Creek chose that system?
I'm told it was a financial reason. I don't know.
I can't imagine it making that big of a difference,
Yeah.
but I guess
because a lot of the student information systems nowadays do just like what Teams do, where it pulls everything in from your human resources to your payroll to your student data to your what you're purchasing. The whole business office side. It's all under one system. And but the good part I liked about Skyward is there was a process called data mining, where I could go in there and I could put in anything and everything I wanted, and I could pull that information out of it. I could go in and I could tell I want all female students that had Miss Graham for biology, and I want their grades for the first 6 weeks compared to the 6 weeks.
So you could, okay, when you're saying that, it's like Eduphoria. In Eduphoria, we can pull up 8th grade African American boys that have a referral or whatever, but you could actually make up your
own reports.
That seems like it would be much more beneficial, especially in a high school our size.
Yeah.
I mean,
I could even take that report and say I'm pulling out, all right, I want to know all of Miss Graham's students that have a 90 or above in the first 6 weeks. And then compare it to a report of all students in the building that were targeting first period. And just merge them together, and it would find the kids over here that were Miss Graham's, that had the 90, and then spit out what time they got to school that day. It was great.
How would you use that data to help your teachers?
Anything that a teacher ever needed was easy to pull. Whereas now I have to sit here and play with it forever and call TMS and say, hey, can you create this report for me? Because it's just not as user friendly. You have to be a programmer to figure out how to pull a report out of this one. Skyward, you didn't have to. You went through and you found the categories you were looking for, you entered the values of what you were looking for, and it spit it all out. It was spectacular.
I hearing employees talk about Skyward all the time and how they wished we had that. What's interesting is I have a friend that just moved out to Anahuac, and the parents have access to Skyward.
Yep.
And she was telling me, because she has 3 children that were all in Goose Creek, and now they're all in Anahuac ISD, and she loves it from the parent perspective.
Yeah.
And this time is into this interview, it really shows you how technology can negatively or positively impact whether it's the employee, whether it's the parent or the student.
Yeah. We have parent access through Teams.
Yeah.
It's as user unfriendly as for the teacher, it's the same thing for the parents.
For the parent, all right, I was mentioning earlier about the PEAMS system. Will you tell me again what that is and how that plays a role in your job? And I know you don't use it that much, but how you do.
Right. Well, PEAMS is like the overarching student access data for the entire state of Texas.
Okay.
And so there is a statewide PEAMS coordinator, and so if our stuff doesn't merge from Teams into PEAMS correctly, then we get what's called fatal errors. You have to go there and fix things. And so sometimes those fixins come down to us, and that's like this report I actually got today is students by grade level that their attendance doesn't match their discipline report. Basically, they're showing on the attendance side that they were in ISS for 2 days, but there's no discipline entry that correspond to those same 2 days. So they're fatal errors, so it kicks you out. And so you have to go through and you have to find, all right, why was the kid in ISS? Why were they in, or was there a discipline infraction to follow it? And so basically, like Miss Hawkins was going through, and I asked her, I said, look at all these kids and look at your stuff and tell me why were they in ISS. And so she highlighted, because sometimes what we use ISS for here at Lee is if a kid is supposed to go on the Stewart Career Center bus and misses it,
Yeah.
well, there's nowhere for them to go. There's nowhere to sit. Nobody sit there. You can't just leave them sitting in the auditorium or the cafeteria by themselves.
Yeah.
They have to be monitored by somebody. So they get put in the ISS room just for monitoring, not because they're in trouble.
Okay.
And so all those kids show up as an ISS attendance, but don't have a discipline to follow it because they're not in trouble.
Yeah, this is really interesting to me. I wasn't expecting this because my action research that I'm having to do is about discipline infractions versus attendance. So I didn't realize that you get a statewide report when there's an issue.
Well, because the state is looking at a big part of this is they have what's called a PBMAS report
I've heard of that.
that is going to look at how many kids are in ISS for more than 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
What race are they? What sex are they? What grade level are they? And then we look at it as, all right, well, if we take the ones that are always in ISS and let's look at our failure list, a lot of times they're the same kids.
Uh-huh.
You know, but at the same time, as I was going through it with the junior AP, she was telling me that all these kids are attendance problems. So that's part of the reason why this showed up. Because say they got in trouble on September 15th.
Yeah.
Well, then they were absent the 16th, 17th, 18th. Well, then they got here on the 19th, and they went into ISS for the 3 days that they were assigned. Well, they were assigned 16, 17, 18, not 19, 20, 21. So now their attendance doesn't match their disciplines. They have to go and fix it all.
And then you literally have to go in there, and that's time consuming.
Very time
That's very
consuming.
time consuming.
That's why it's important that kids come to school.
Amen. All right, so negatives of technology, because it seems like with this particular situation, it's great that the technology draws attention to where there might be errors. But as far as fixing them, this particular problem to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, seems like it would be easier just to get the paper in front of you, say, okay, Miss Galloway, the student was assigned but couldn't go until next week, so fine. That one's not really an error. But this time you actually have to fix it in
Right,
a
because
system.
with technology, when a teacher, or excuse me, an AP is working through Review 360, they have to enter in the student, what they did, what teacher they did it with,
Mhm.
and then they start time for ISS, end date for ISS, and number of days assigned. And so, if you weren't entering those dates, this would never been an issue.
Exactly.
But
So
you're
it
required
creates
to
an
keep
issue.
track of all that, but because they don't match, it creates the issue.
Wow. All right. So I guess I'll move on with the technology that we have here at this school. Will you tell me, iPads are a big deal on our campus. We're Apple distinguished. I know that's a little bit different than some of our other high schools. Can you tell me something that you see positive about all of our students having an iPad?
It definitely changes the way a teacher can teach them. Not all of them accept the technology as well as others,
Mhm.
but for those that do, it lets the kids do less paper or pencil activities, because to me it's not a big deal to have a piece of paper in front of me doing some kind of work, because it's what I've done my entire life. You did it in school, But for these students, they're less paper pencil and they're more technology driven. My 2-year-old can pick up a cell phone and play games on it.
Mhm.
I didn't even have this kind of a cell phone until about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And so it definitely changes the way the instruction takes place. And because it changes that, it definitely impacts the engagement. Because kids are going to typically be more engaged when they have the electronic device in their hand versus the pencil and paper, as long as the electronic device is focused on what they're supposed to be doing.
Exactly, which brings me to negative. Will you share some of the negative things you've seen with the one-to-one technology with our students? And you can even give some examples if you want, but share some of the negative and kind of rate it in your own words of, does the negative sometimes outweigh the positive or vice versa?
Absolutely, it does. One of the big negatives is that our students are under the impression they cannot live without it.
Mm-hmm.
If I leave my cell phone at home, oh well, no big deal, I left my cell phone at home, I'll get it, when I go home.
Yeah.
Kids nowadays, it's like, I left my cell phone, I gotta leave first period and go home and go get it.
Yes.
When I'm like, you don't really have to have it. So that's a negative aspect of it, is they can't live without it. They
Mhm.
can't seem to put it down. They think, I'm real polyphasic, I can do 2 things at one time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm pretty darn smart, but I sit here and I text and I'm playing with this. Oh, what was that? I missed it.
Mhm.
Because you're not that good.
Yeah.
And so I think they can do 2 things at once, but really they get so engrossed in texting their friend or looking at Facebook real quick. And I'm guilty of it sometimes too,
Oh, yeah.
Especially if my wife is buzzing me and I'm trying to answer her, then I miss what the conversation just happened. took
Yeah.
place from the superintendent or whoever, you know. And so it can be a big distraction because they don't want to put it down. You
Definitely.
know?
When you walk into a classroom, I know that it's part of our TEKS to integrate technology, but what would you like to see? Give me a percent of how much technology compared to traditional teaching in a classroom when you walk in.
Well, because all of our teachers have a Promethean board in the classroom, you're going to see some kind of technology nearly all the time.
Okay.
But as far as students actually using their iPads, there's only a handful of teachers I can say that I can walk in and expect the kids to have the iPad in their hands.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if I was to put a percentage with it, I'd say less than 50, but probably more than 40, more than 35. You know, just because not what I had hoped for. Now this campus does a lot better job than my previous campus does,
Mm-hmm.
but still, I just expect to see it happening every day in every class, and it's just not. And I understand it can't happen every day in every class, but I expected to see it more than what I actually do.
You know, have you seen that cartoon Wall-E?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Well, one of the things that's been, I like technology. I get it, and I'm with you. Like my 8-year-old, I can remember him having a tablet at 2 or 3, and I was really amazed that he could just, wow, he's a genius. He could pick it up and
Right.
use it. And I was watching, you know, those TEDs, the online.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I was watching one, and one of these gurus of technology, and I don't remember what it was, but he basically, they did an experiment, his company, where they dropped off laptops. This has been about 10 years ago in the middle of, I want to say it was Ethiopia, a country over in Africa, and they wanted to see if students could self-teach
Mhm.
or children. Well, they dropped off these laptops, and the only other really thing that they did is they made sure that internet was available, satellite
Mhm.
internet.
Mhm.
And they came back a week later, and this tribe of students had basically taught themselves to use the laptop. And in the TED, the guy said that within 3 weeks, the kids had already hacked in to several systems. Now, he used the word hack. That could have meant they just opened up something they didn't expect them to
Yeah.
use. Because I actually pondered that later. Because when we think of hack in America, we think of getting into something you're not supposed to and something negative.
Right, and
I-
changing grades or something.
Yes, but what I think he meant by that is they went into a system that they just didn't expect the kids to even go to.
Mhm.
But anyways, so what concerned me as an educator and tying it into this is if these gurus, you know, and I don't know any other name to call them, are saying that it is possible to hand someone with absolutely zero technological experience technology, and they will not only learn to use the technology but will learn from the technology, what is going to happen to education 10, 20 years from now?
Mhm.
He even further expanded that he thinks in 30 years, only, he's 70, he thinks in 30 years that we will be able to take a pill, say we want to learn Spanish, that we will be able to take a pill, and that that pill will release stuff into our bloodstream, and we will actually learn a language
Oh,
from
wow.
taking a pill. Now here's the catch to this. This man has predicted 5 big educational phenomenons.
Really?
20, you gotta watch this TED. Anyways, so bringing it back to my last question. Do you truly feel like technology is on the right path, or do you think sometimes we cross barriers we shouldn't?
In education, I don't know if we necessarily cross any barriers. I think there are some times where the teachers are more afraid of it, so it doesn't accomplish what you want it to accomplish.
Yes.
You know, I can remember when two years ago, I think 2 years ago, when they first gave iPads to all the teachers.
Mm-hmm.
I sat next to a particular teacher, senior level teacher, and she was cussing the whole time because she couldn't get it to turn on. You know, and so I laughed because I'm like, how is she ever going to use this in the classroom?
Yeah.
And so at the end of the year, when it came time to, you know, I don't think they had to turn them back in, but they had like some kind of check.
Yeah.
You know, I asked her, hey, Miss So-and-so, where's your iPad? Oh, I got to find it in my garage. You know, kind of like the tribe in Ethiopia, I'm going to grab it, I'm going to play with it.
Yes.
But some of the older folks are just going to be like,
they didn't
set
need
it aside and use it for a doorstop maybe, you know.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of what she did, is she just put it away. And so I think it becomes a barrier in that aspect. But as far as, you know, technology can interfere, I think, in some other aspects, you know, science-wise,
Mhm.
but not necessarily in education-wise.
I really, really appreciate your time very much. Thank you.
Anytime. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.